Thursday, October 12th. We're getting underway an hour earlier than we normally do because we have a very special guest that we can connect with right here and right now. And I'm very excited to welcome in and bring in my old sports pal from around the way, Tim Kawakami. We've been bumping into each other in press boxes for like 18 years now. And Tim, thank you so much for coming on this little project that is Damon Bruce on the internet. I really appreciate it.
Damon Bruce unleashed independently. I'm all good with that. I love when people do their own stuff. I watch it, I listen, I hear, and really glad to be on with Damon. I'm just glad I don't think.
Thank you, brother. We keep going. We keep going. That's the way it is in media these days. They're going to try to shut you down. You keep on going. I want to talk about where it all. Yeah, I want to talk about where it all started for you because I did use the most mullet, gorgeous, white shirt buttoned to the top buttoned. I'm guessing we're talking a 23 or 4-year-old right out of Northwestern clocking in at the Lacrosse Tribune, Tim Kawakami. Tell me about the Lacrosse Tribune, Tim. What do you remember about that newsroom?
Very similar to Lacrosse Tribune. I think you're just nailing it. I'm pretty sure that was taken early in my days at a little tiny paper we called the Los Angeles Times. And I think I was doing I don't know, my first column-esque kind of thing in my 20s. That actually might be the picture for the De La Hoya book. Who knows? It's all a blur to me at this point, but at least it's the picture we used for the De La Hoya book. And as I say when people see that picture, that it wasn't just all my hair was long back then. I just had nice gel, so it didn't look like that up top. I had very long hair. I've had long hair pretty recently too, but just for that one, they decided to be resplendent with it at the LA Times with an official LA Times picture, and that thing's followed me around, and that's okay. There's worse pictures of me out there, Damon. I don't really. There's some that I wish would be scrubbed forever, and maybe it'll still pop up, but that one I'm okay with. Just had really long hair, Damon. That happens.
What was your first job in journalism out of Northwestern?
Philadelphia Daily News. I got really lucky. It was an internship. They were looking for someone I didn't know at the time. It was to back up the Philadelphia Eagles, which is pretty freaking good beat. I didn't know. They brought me in there as an intern. I had done some things at Northwestern. That's one thing that was fun about Northwestern is terrible athletic teams at that point. But man, we were Bobby Knight, who you may have heard of, and other guys. And they came through Northwestern, so I had a chance to write about a lot of big personalities. And so the Daily News was interested in that. They want to take a look at me. I did not know the famous story. It did happen like 3 weeks into the internship. I did not know at the time. They're looking at me to replace the Eagles beat writer. Rich Hoffman was being promoted to a column, but they couldn't do it until they had a replacement for him on the Eagles. This is Reggie White, Jerome Brown, Buddy Ryan. Missed pretty heady days.
Yeah.
And they bring me in there and go, it was really hard bit in sports. It's like, hey, what sports would you most want to cover? If you had your choice of any sports, knowing them knowing that the Eagles was on the table, me not knowing that. And I said, well, listen, I probably want to cover baseball first. Then I love college basketball. Then I love pro basketball. And I'm seeing the looks on their faces they're giving me. I go, is there something I'm saying wrong here? He goes, no, we're about to offer you the Eagles. That's in the NFL. I go, let me change that to say NFL first. And if there's any team I want to cover, it was the Eagles. It was hilarious. I'm 22 years old, maybe, about to cover the Eagles for this, really, really good, tabloid journalism, but good, strong writing history with really good writers there that I learned a ton from, and demanding editor. It was great. It was a fantastic way to start my career. It's like all of a sudden you're in the middle of it. You're getting yelled at. If someone else has a story, you're in play immediately. I was there for 2.5 years, I think, and people in Philly still remember me, which I like that. It was a really interesting time. Randall Cunningham, Mike, all those people were so huge. And I was in the middle. I was the same age as a lot of those guys. I was younger than a lot of the players. So it was a pretty fun time out there, Damon. And it kind of made a lot of what I believe in and made a lot of what I still do. It's like work your ass off, talk to the important people, and just be in play constantly. And I've hopefully done that the rest of my career.
As someone who came to the West Coast from the East Coast as well at one point.
Grew up in the Bay Area. Grew up in the Bay Area.
I know,
I grew up in the Bay Area.
But to go out there, you then feel a level of intensity and passion that just it almost doesn't exist anywhere else. It really doesn't. There is a difference between the two coasts for sure. And then, it's funny, Tim. I always thought that like I would stand out sometimes negatively in people's mind because I'd be asked very direct questions. I know you have worn this scarlet letter throughout your career. You're not there to make friends. You're there to get answers. And it feels like that's a different way to approach the job than a lot of people would like it approached sometimes on the West Coast. It's why you're everyone's a-hole.
Whatever on that one. I don't care. But I think what you're trying to get is what's happening here, what's really happening here, and what are really the consequences of it. And that can be fine to some people, and that can be really alarming to others. And I never minded the difference. Just like I go from Philly, which it was freaking lather, everything was bam, bam, bam in your face. I'm asking the owner questions. He's yelling at me on the sideline. That did happen with the Eagles. And then I go to LA, with the Rams and with John Robinson, and everything was calm and everybody loves each other. And I was a whole different thing. Now they started losing immediately once I got there. So that was an interesting dynamic. But the LA Times was not built like that, in large part. There were great writers there, but it wasn't quite have the East Coast mentality. I'm not saying I was totally East Coast, but I had that in me. Like, what is going on? Like, this is not going to be you're palling around with everybody. Like, what is going on? And if there's something seriously amiss, I'm going to write about it. And that just became like, this is what I'm going to do. And then it went to UCLA basketball. It was the same. Jim Herrick wins a national title, but gets fired, less than 2 years later. What really happened there? All these stories seem to kind of come my way. You immerse yourself in them. Certainly happened once I got up to the Bay Area. And I'll say it, I've said it before. There's a hole in Bay Area sports journalism about, I really felt it covering the Warriors because I covered coming off of covering the Lakers. They were really good, but man, they were covering heat. There's heat on the Lakers. There's no question. If they lose, you need to know why. If they win, how they're going to keep doing it. The Shaq, Kobe, the feuds, all Phil Jackson, this stuff was brewing, and you had to be totally in it, and you had to talk to other teams, other agents. I came up here and the Warriors were a little pet, right? They were, the cute little Warriors. Aren't they kind of fun? They might make the playoffs one of these years, but not this year. Thunder. I was like, this is the wrong way to cover them. They're not being covered seriously. I don't care about the access with Chris Cohan or Robert Rowell or whatever. I'm going to cover them like a real team. I had experience covering the Lakers. One of the few people that's ever covered the Warriors to that point had ever covered another team in the NBA. So they weren't the cute little cuddly little Warriors that were failing constantly. And I think that I really grabbed into that with whatever you want to call it in a way that no one had covered the Warriors. Bucher had a lot of that during the Don Nelson era, but that was years before. And I think got myself some credibility, not just with fans who are like, this is terrible. Well, someone's got to be writing about this, but within even, I'd have to say Joe Lacob read my blog before he bought the team. Doesn't mean he agreed with everything. He yells at me all the time still. But with people who were viewing this impartially, what's wrong with this team, you had to say what was wrong with this team to be able to, when they were getting it right, Lacob, Steve Kerr, Steph Curry, the whole thing. If you didn't say it was wrong before it was terrible, when it was terrible, you didn't have a lot of credibility to say it was right when things were good.
Right.
So I think that really was evolution that I felt here.
Right. How can you recognize greatness when you're unaware of how bad it was for so many years? It's true. Tim, I really do. I mean this. If there's one thing I learned about working with Ray Ratto is that journalists don't like compliments. I think you're the best at what you do. I think you are the king of covering Bay Area sports. I think you have established that. You've earned that. I think that the Plus Minus podcast that you do with Anthony Slater and Marcus Thompson is one of the best sports podcasts ever created. You guys are so thorough, and we'll get into all of that in a minute, but I really mean it. I'm glad that you're here today. I've always admired your work from afar, from close to you. I've seen the way you go about, just the way you handle yourself, and it's the way a journalist should conduct business at this level. The only regret I have of your career is that I wasn't in the room for the "that's not true, Kawakami" Raider press conference. I missed that one. I don't know where I was. I wish I were there for that one.
All time. The Raider stuff again. I mean, Raider fans, many of them still hate me for that. Like, what did you want me to write about them back then? You know, Al was not well, and people were leaving that franchise, and they were terrible. And he was hiring a procession of bad coaches. And it's like, did you want me to be complimenting the situation right now? It's like, I don't like, I'm trying to write things that actually would help them maybe get better, to change.
Right.
And there was this anger there that still is with Raider fans. So yeah, if that's what they want me, you know, I am hated for, whatever. I've long ago said that's just fine. Hate me for calling something terrible that is actually terrible, and there's no way it will cease being terrible unless they change. I got no problem with that.
I've always felt, you know, I don't know how much radio hosts or former radio hosts and sports writers actually have in common, but my entire approach was hate me all you want as long as you're listening. And I'm sure you've always been wired to hate me all you want as long as you read it. And that's what we do. That is the job. You and I both been covering the 49ers for a very, very long time. Tim, I think this is the strongest 5-0 that I've seen them create. Maybe you've got another one in your mind, but I don't think I've seen a 49ers season leave the launching pad as successful, as dominant, and most importantly, as healthy as this one has.
Yeah, I mean, it's all comparable. 19 was a very strong start. You know, the first really good Shanahan year, but you know, you look back on it now, it was Jimmy Garoppolo, right? I mean, it's all revisionist. At the time, they were the best team in the league, had stomped the Rams, and the Rams were pretty good and looked very good on the road, as this team already has. The quarterback is a difference, I think. I mean, I don't want to overstate Brock Purdy. Maybe I've been accused of that. I just think he's a really good quarterback. I think he's better than Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he's better than anybody they've had, dating back to Steve Young in that Super Bowl season. So, I mean, Matt Barrows is comparing that 94 49ers team to the last Super Bowl team. Now, that team had Dion. I mean, they had Hall of Famers, Bryant Young's rookie season, guy named Jerry Rice. Like, you know, there's certainly, I'm going to hesitate on that one. I think, let's see. But where I'm going to agree on is that quarterback is better than anybody they've had since Steve Young. There's comparables. Kaepernick in 2012 was very strong. 2011, whatever. I'm trying to remember now. It all blurs. And in 2012, and you know, Garcia was a Pro Bowl quarterback. We haven't seen a full season of Brock Purdy. I do think he's better than any of them. He's the best since Steve Young. So that lifts them to a whole different place. He hasn't been in many shootouts. We'll see, but he was in one. That Raider game in Las Vegas, that was very shootout. That was one off game for the 49ers defense. But I do think you put that quarterback, if he's at the level I believe he's at, which I think is going to be very high, with Christian McCaffrey, with Deebo Samuel, with George Kittle, with Trent, with that defense, which I think Hargrave has been a huge addition for that defense. They're just so much more consistent up the middle now that creates so many other things for the other players. Fred Warner obviously having an incredible. I think it's compared to 19, but if you just want to say the quarterback lifts them above that, I'm going to agree with you. We'll see. I'm trying not to go overboard on Purdy, although, good Lord, I've declared since the Seattle game last year, on the road, it was his third game, you know, with a rib injury and making the plays win. I was convinced then. I really was. That's when Shanahan was. He said that was the game. I knew he was a dude. And in Shanahan terminology, that's pretty high compliment. I just think that does have them a lot, not a lot higher than 19, which I thought, again, was a really good team. That team could have won a Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes at his apex, with Tyreek Hill, with all that. They had him beat. Jimmy some throws in the fourth quarter. I think Brock Purdy can make those throws. So, yeah, I think this team is better than 19. Still need to prove it week after week. Still need to get through it. Mostly uninjured. We'll see. But I'm just going to compare it to that's the one we've seen. I'm going to say I think they're more talented than 19.
If all superheroes have origin stories, the Brock Purdy origin story is greater than all of them. I mean, he comes from a place that never delivers success especially at the place of quarterback, final pick of the draft to turn into, a guy who could be in an all-pro, a pro bowler, if that's where this year goes. It's way too early to have any sort of MVP discussion, for goodness sakes, but it just seems to be so well set up, and he seems to be so well suited to execute Kyle's vision. And let's be completely honest, Kyle's vision is the star of the 49ers. It always has been and always will be. He has a system. He wants it run. He's beautifully stubborn because he's had an awful lot of success with the system that he's installed. And he just wants someone to go out and do what he wants done, sees the same things that he sees in real time. And it feels like Brock checks those ultra important boxes, which are so much more important than arm strength or physical attribute for Kyle. I mean, the system quarterback. I don't know. I was joking around the other day. I'm a system broadcaster, Tim. If I'm on the radio, I work that system. If I'm on the internet, I work that system. I'm guessing you're a system writer. Sometimes this system used to be a typewriter, then it was a word processor, then it was a laptop. And, you adapt to the system that you're in.
Yeah, and you make the most of it. I just think to get to it, the way I'm thinking about it now is he's expanding these.
Tim, you're breaking up just a little bit.
Could go wrong, and much more frequently than he with Jimmy Garoppolo, because he was afraid to screw them up. Tight ball, it's going to be that's where the ball has to go. Something where
Tim, we're glitching out just a teeny tiny bit. Is there any
losing
way?
Some sound here?
Yeah. You're glitching out just a touch. You're freezing a little bit. Do you want to log out and then click back in? We'll try to reset the connection. Should we do that? Let's see if Tim decides to do that. Log out and come on back. What if I go ahead and just get Tim off to the side for a little bit here while we shoot that out? He just disappeared. He's logging out and coming back in. Let me welcome everyone. Welcome to the Damon Bruce Show, starting earlier with a special Tim Kawakami interview. I thought, what do we just do, like an interview with Tim and then create another thumbnail and get? No. We're just going to roll. We're just going to go right into the Damon Bruce Show today. We're not going anywhere. It's going to be a live broadcast the whole way through. And Tim is back. Hopefully we got a little bit better of a connection right now. I still haven't heard you, Tim. I can't hear you.
There we go. I think we'll be able to be back on here. You got me?
There it is. Tim Kawakami is back. Let's just jump. Look, we have nothing but accolades for the 49ers right now. We'll circle back to them should something go wrong. But man, it doesn't look like Deshaun Watson is going to be playing come Sunday for the Browns. We know that Jefferson is out, and if you got a road trip, Cleveland and Minnesota, those are the first two names you'd like to see out of the game. And it looks like that's the way the 49ers are going to get it. So the season is breaking back towards them. They've broken very, very well. Everything looks really good. I just want to finish up, though, with your relationship with Kyle Shanahan. You and Harbaugh, I think, became friendly with each other through butting heads. And that's how Jim communicates. Like he wants to poke. And if you poke back, he instantly respects that. I brought this up with Matt Mayoko. This is the longest tenured 49er coach you have covered here in year 7. You normally don't get a year 7 unless you've won a Lombardi trophy. How has your relationship with Kyle Shanahan changed from year 1 to now? Is he very similar as to the guy you started covering, or do you think he has evolved in a big or different way over the few years?
He's pretty similar. That's one thing I think about Kyle. He compliments Purdy, and all the other players compliment Purdy about being pretty consistent, on Wednesday, on Sunday, incomplete pass, touchdown. Kyle's pretty consistent. He's really on it. Like, he is rarely not on his game. He can be lighter, he can be funnier, whatever, but he's rarely in a moment where he's like thinking, daydreaming, or or just in a bad mood or good. Like, it's Kyle. He was like that day one. He was very sure of himself. He was very sure of where he and John Lynch wanted to go. And if you kind of understood that, I think he appreciated like questions that got where he was going. And, listen, I've criticized him when they were 3-5, a couple of years ago, all these other things like this is not working, but not, throwing, like he's got to be fired or anything like that. Just like this is an interesting time. I think he appreciated that too. Like, he is a straight up guy. He can get pissy. That's for sure. He gets pissy with everybody in the building. That's what I get when I talk to people at 49ers. Like, how he is with us in the hallways on a Monday morning is exactly how he is when he's up at the podium talking to you guys. Like, it's the same thing. Are some people like know that he might bite at them if they ask a stupid question? Yes, in the hallway and during a press conference. I like that kind of stuff. Like, I got along, as you said, I got along with Harbaugh. Again, we had some interesting public moments, but we always respected each other. And there's not too many people he's talking to now from the Bay Area. He does talk to me. Kind of a football guy sense of it, I think, is like, know what you're talking about before you ask a question. Now, there's some questions he's not going to love, but know when you ask about why didn't you have like the defense on 4th and 2 and they pulled the fake punt, like, no, like that's what defenses normally are out there if they're expecting a fake punt. He respects that sort of stuff. I think he's been a little more relaxed this season. 5-0 certainly helps. Having a really good team helps, but I think he's pretty satisfied that this is the team that he and John Lynch wanted to build. Got lucky with Brock Purdy, but hey, they're the teams that have them. That's the you get the fortune you make, and things might tighten up. They lose a couple games, like certainly things tighten up in any football situation. But I think he's basically been the same, and he appreciates consistency, appreciates consistency, and he appreciates consistent media. I mean, whatever everyone says, I'm pretty consistent. Like, I'm going to ask the question that's on my mind. I'm going to try to think about why you did this, and I want you to explain it to me. Some questions I ask, get anything I can use today or tomorrow, but I want to know why this is happening. Steve Wilkes up in the booth on the defense as the last 2 defensive coordinators have been on the field. Like, why are these not right? Writing about it right away? Do I need this answer right away? No, I just kind of want to get a sense of who the team is and what Kyle out of it. And I think he appreciates that. And I've always asked those kind of questions. Again, he's not loved some of those questions, but he has, like, if it's coming from somewhere that he understands, he's pretty good about it. And believe me, he knows everyone who asks every question, he remembers the question. He remembers why he thought you asked a question. He's trying to think through it, and then he's going to give his answer. I tend to like confident coaches, not overconfident coaches, but confident. Like, right. Believe in what you're doing. Don't be insecure. Don't be trying to fend off things. Try to do things. I do think like some 49er fans even don't like Kyle because he's so confident. They didn't like Harbaugh because he's so confident. It's like, this is what you're supposed to want. Like a smart guy who believes in what he's doing, and he's going to go do it. He's not doing it for PR. He's not doing it the NFL Today show or ESPN, which is what I really appreciate about Shanahan and Harbaugh. That's similar. They're not appearing on these shows. You don't see these Jay Glazer sit-downs with these guys. You used to see it with Mike Nolan like every other week. And
totally.
They're just trying to win freaking football games. They don't do it all the time. Maybe the exception of that one. I don't think you should be trying to win, Twitter, and you should be trying to win, ESPN. You should be trying to win football games, and I do respect that. Harbaugh and Shanahan are more similar than you would think. I know these guys. Harbaugh's crazy, and he knows it. He says he's crazy. Shanahan's much more normal than that. But, man, in the football world, in meeting rooms, they're hard-edged offensive guys. And those guys are the most valuable coaches in football. Hard-edged guys who believe in physical offensive football. We see some offense coordinators who do not respect defenses, who don't know how to communicate the defenses. We've seen them with the 49ers. That is not Harbaugh, of course. And that's definitely not Kyle Shanahan. Shanahan. And those are two things I think I with, and I think they know I connect with. So I've had good relationships with both those guys.
By the way, I got a great story for you about Mike Nolan. When I was in the dawn of my KNBR career, I'm the new guy hosting Sports Phone. If you're asked into a meeting, a full station meeting, you just sit there and don't say a word, Damon. Mike Nolan came in to talk to every host at the station. I've never seen any head coach schedule such meeting before or since. And it was very nice. We had a sandwich with Mike Nolan. We just talked a little bit, and it was everybody. It was me, Radnich, Ralph, Tom, Tony Salvador, like all the KNBR old stalwarts, Lee Hammer's sitting there, everybody, right? So Fitz and Brooks, it's the whole station, Murph and Mac, everybody came in for this special Mike Nolan meeting. At the end of it, he's like, okay, any questions? Ralph immediately goes, "What the fuck are you doing here, Mike? What are you doing? You should be coaching a football team, not sitting here glad-handing with us. Why are you here today? What are you doing?" And I don't know if that was a more representative moment of the Mike Nolan era or the Ralph Barbieri era. That was incredible. I'd never sat through a meeting like that.
What did Nolan say? Good time. What was Nolan's answer to that?
Oh, Nolan was like, well, I'm sure happy that you appreciate it. I mean, Ralph had enough of a smile on it where it played well enough in the room, but I knew for a fact that Ralph really meant it. Like, why are you wasting your precious time here with us? Don't you have other things you should be doing? And it was just...
Can you imagine Kyle? Can you imagine Kyle doing that? I can't imagine Kyle even getting in a car.
No, I can't even imagine splitting a muffin.
I mean, it's not happening. And
no.
Yeah. And again, I like coaches who are like, you want them to do media. I absolutely want to talk to Kyle as much as I can. But they're not glad handing. They're not trying to campaign for stuff. You know how you campaign for stuff? You win football games. You handle things in the right way. You deal with your players. You have your players respect you. Columnists and sports talk people, respect you. You just got to win games. Win freaking games. And I go back to Purdy on this one. Like, he wins games. And I know QB wins is not a stat, and the metrics people go crazy, and you got to do all this other stuff. Win games. At some point, you have to say, this is the platter of Purdy right now. He just wins games. He makes plays that make a difference, whether it's in the first quarter or the fourth quarter. They all count the same. I know people say, oh, there's no fourth quarter comebacks. Those touchdowns in the first, actually, because you want to get that lead. It's like, this is what it's all about. And I do think there's been an overemphasis. I love metrics. Believe it. I want to look at them. But there's been, oh, look at this route over there and this scheme combination. Oh, my. And he stepped through. Like, how about just making win games? Like that is the point of this. And, Brock Purdy wins football games, has won football games from the moment he arrived. I'm going to judge him largely not just QB wins, Stat people are going to hate me forever for even saying those words, but it does matter.
Look at it this way. If you want to attach QB losses to him, he has none of those either. So, It's gone pretty well for Brock Purdy. I could talk 49ers with you all day, but obviously we got a basketball season coming quickly. I mean, a few meals, a few nights, a few sleeps, and it's going to be NBA season once again. How excited are you for the Chris Paul era of the Golden State Warriors? I never thought we'd see this.
No, I never thought it. It's interesting. It's Paul's sixth team. It's pretty amazing. Hall of Famer this is his 16th team, but I think I'm interested in it because of what it's going to say about him in his final years, however many he's going to play, and what it says about where the Warriors are, in this whatever stage we're in, the Steph Curry era. They're really saying it like whereas last few years, whatever we want to say about two timelines thing, Joe Lacob yells at me whenever I say it, but I'm pretty sure he said it first. I don't think I came up with the two timelines nickname or plan, but they did. There was a lean towards James Wiseman and Jonathan Kuminga in the future and not loading yourself older players. And that has changed, no question. I think it's changed because Steph's been so good going into his late 30s. It's changed because Draymond's was good to, even very good last season in a contract year. It changed because Wiseman was such a bust. You couldn't even pretend that he fit on the court. It changed because Jordan Poole just did not quite fit. A lot of, you change one of those things and maybe they're not here and trying to add a 38-year-old to be your new thing, but they're there. All those things happen. And Chris Paul, to me, is the perfect player for this season. Get him into a second unit, get the ball where it's best for him, work with Dario Saric, and then maybe close games standing next to Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, Andrew Wiggins. It all works, and every fan should want that. What's the best thing right now? How do you win immediately? And Warriors fans felt that, and many of them have demanded that. I understood trying to make the James Wiseman thing. It's the pick. Like, it was a natural pick. You didn't. It was a COVID year. All excuses. They tried. Like, I don't think LaMelo Ball would have worked with Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. I just don't think it would have been. It would have been better in James Wiseman. I understood the Wiseman pick, though, in that context.
I can't criticize in real time. I was lobbying it.
Yeah, I mean,
no, I was saying I thought the pick was right in real time too. Yeah. You already said Kuminga, and I just think we all know that the Warriors are their starting five. Like, they'll go no further than their starting five takes them. But I also do think that Jonathan Kuminga taking that leap forward now here in year 3 is as crucial of a bench element as they've had in terms of what kind of successful team are you going to be this year. I think if Paul, Kuminga, like you said, that second unit can give them anything, like small ball might be back. Like the Warriors could be a lot more interesting than some of their loudest detractors say that they're about to be.
It's huge, no question. He's been a big question mark for 2 years now, right? As a rookie, I was thinking maybe you should play him in the playoffs a little bit more, Stephen. Obviously, he played early in last season's playoffs, and they got pulled when they just didn't fit. He wasn't getting rebounds. They weren't guarding him at the three-point line. Don't know that he's going to be that three-point shooter. We'll see. He made a couple in the first game. But if he's playable, just playable, and this is the way I've thrown it out there, like, there's a whole bunch of minutes that Anthony Lamb got last regular season, right? There's tons of them. Kuminga just needs those minutes, and he's going to be Lamb if he is playing well. He is no question going to be better than Anthony Lamb. That immediately makes Warriors 2 or 3 wins better, I would say, if he's good and they can rely on him, and maybe even start Kuminga starts. Not likely with Chris Paul there, but I'm like minutes if he's that good. If he's a finisher inside, which they really haven't had. If he can go, perimeter players, even some, big forwards. It's an extra dimension that they probably needed last season. Probably wasn't for the full boat, but they can get 26, 28 minutes a game out of Jonathan Kuminga, and it'd be productive and not be a negative. And it was a negative for much of last year. Certainly was a negative in the playoffs. It's a different kind of team. It's a deeper team. It's a more physical team. It's a more athletic team. And Chris Paul gets a little, he's a little ornery, which again, I like. I kind of like ornery. But like, yeah, your job to make sure Jonathan Kuminga is good. Like, no, that's not my job. My job is to play basketball. I'm not anybody's. Like, I just want to make sure the team's good. But I do think he could help Jonathan Kuminga get more comfortable. Just his presence on the floor, is steady. I tend to be the Jordan Poole basher, and I don't want to keep doing that. But when you have Jordan Poole on the floor with Jonathan Kuminga, what's the incentive for Jonathan Kuminga to play disciplined basketball? Because the guy with the ball is just throwing the ball up there, sometimes good, sometimes poorly. But there wasn't kind of a restraint. There wasn't kind of a calm with that second unit. I think, obviously, with Chris Paul, there's going to be a sensibility to that unit. And you put GP2 in there, Moses Moody. I think Podziemski, although Kerr hesitant about playing rookies right away, has won him over with his maturity. you start looking at, that's a much deeper team than last season. Maybe comparable to some of their championship seasons. They've lost some guys. We know that, but I think this is just Chris Paul makes things make sense on the floor. He always has. He's aged. Probably can't play as many minutes. I don't think he's as great defensively on the ball, but that little mid-range and that the defense having to guard it and playing the pick and roll and throwing the lobbers, and if the lob is covered, getting it to somebody standing in the corner. These are all that make sense to me that didn't really make sense with the Warriors during the playoffs. And I'm going to do my Jordan Poole bashing. He was terrible in the playoffs. He was absolutely terrible. Just have moderate play out of Chris Paul substituting in for Jordan Poole. Just moderate play. Just be a plus player. Make a few buckets. Get easy buckets for other people. Ball down all the time. And be a presence on defense. That's a difference. That's a real difference. Now, can he get there? Can he stay healthy? These are questions I don't know, but it's not like they were getting all this great stuff from Jordan Poole. So, unsurprisingly, I'm bashing Jordan Poole on this call, but I do think Chris Paul makes a lot of things make sense. At least he's somebody that they can trade at the end of the year because he's got a non-guaranteed contract. This in a lot of ways that I'm interested. I don't know, excited, whatever. I'll just say I'm interested. I made it to that first preseason game, and I didn't have to because 49ers playing the next day. But I think this is a team that feels like it makes sense much more than last season. Obviously, starts with Draymond punching Poole like that. If they just don't do that, again, we'll see. I don't think it's going to happen this season. If they just don't do that, I think the start of the season will feel a lot different, and it won't be that panic. People were saying, why are you riding the panic right now? Damon, when they started off 0-8 on the road, they were panicking. It was them falling through a hole that they weren't sure that they could get out of. Steph played great, but they just avoid that, and they end up in January or whatever 22-10 instead of where they were last season. That's going to be a different feel to it. I think Chris Paul is going to help them really feel steadier to start the season.
Do you think there will be any movement in the next 10 days, however long we got until the season starts, to get an extension done with Klay Thompson, or is that a story for another month?
No, I think they want to get it done before the start of the season, which is October 24th. I don't know that they will. I think they did Wiggins and Poole a week from now last year, so they like to keep these things really quiet. This is who they are, so we don't know. I would think there's going to be a Klay extension before the season. I don't know. Again, they're keeping it really quiet. And I think there will be a Steve Kerr extension too. I could be wrong. You could do the Kerr one a little bit later, I think. I think the Klay doesn't want negotiations during the season, probably. Although if anybody could be cool enough to handle him, it's probably Klay. And did a really nice interview about that a couple days ago. Give a sense of where he's like, listen, I made it this long in the NBA. I'm going to get paid. I just want to play as well as possible. I think both. They tend to get these things done. When they talk like this, it's like they were talking at the end of the season about Draymond's extension. It got into question. People were saying he could sign with Portland or somewhere. When the Warriors talk like they think it's going to happen, they pretty much know what's going to happen. They know the dollars it's going to take, and they know they're going to get there eventually. They may not be there now. I think the market price for Klay is a little different just because of the seasons he's had, and we know he's a different player. But he's right about where Draymond signed, about $25 a year. If he signs for $3 and $75, it would not shock me. To time, I guess $2 and $50 maybe to time him with Steph. And if Kerr signs, for a 2-year extension to get time him with Steph, would not surprise me. The numbers are there. The Warriors, if they were worried at all, I think we would have felt that, and I have not felt them being worried. And if it doesn't get done by the start of the season, though these things tend to not to drag in the season, I think for both guys, it could last a little while into the season. I don't think the Warriors are sweating that too much.
Well, I really mean it. There are some podcasts I listen to some of the time. The only podcast I listen to all of the time is the Warriors Plus Minus. I think you, Slater, and Marcus do a tremendous job over there. So keep up the great work. It's informative. It's funny. It works. It's critical. It is not overly critical. Like, you guys hit a lot of the right notes in that podcast, and I enjoy it very much. What do you think of Joe Lacob's you guys earned it, man. You really did. What do you think of Lacob's WNBA investment? And will the cause of the WNBA, or the representative cause of the WNBA, some more equality for women in sports, be a factor that allows them to break through in the market in a way that like Cal, nor Stanford, nor the Sharks, or even the A's in the last decade or two ever really have? This is a decidedly Niners, Warriors, Giants town. What shot do you give the WNBA for capturing a little of the actual marketplace?
They got to win. We'll see if they win, get star players, and Lacob has shown the tendency to be star players. I think this was always going to happen. They build that arena. He's got the history with women's basketball, but back to the ABL. Once the Warriors were NBA and the WNBA, since they are the same, owned by the same people, was always going to lean his way, and he got his way. And I think, practicing and being headquartered in Oakland is a good nod to their roots in Oakland. We'll see. It's not starting for a little while. What the atmosphere, what the environment's going to be in a couple of years. Will the Warriors? Don't know. Where will the 49ers be? Where will the Giants be? It's all within a marketplace that's changing all the time. But I do think that the WNBA understood if they're going to go big in the Bay Area, it's going to be with the Warriors, and it's going to be with Joe Lacob. And who is he going to hire as his team president? Who is he going to hire as his general manager, his head coach? And these are all unknown. Don't know the team name. But I think there will be interest if the team wins. Like we've seen, the ratings are very good been for the playoffs. We see the super teams in Las Vegas and New York. Maybe Las Vegas a little more super. I look at that too. Like these are all players I've heard of in the WNBA. That's a pretty good team. And I think the Warriors will be in there. And I think the Warriors will spend money on this team. I think Joe Lacob will demand. Right? We know Joe Lacob texting Mike Dunleavy every other hour with ideas. He'll have ideas. He's got a passion for it. Can't be good. They're not going to have that much attention. If they're good, that's what I like about the Bay Area, by the way. If you're good, you'll get attention. You'll get tons of attention. If you're not good, you're just going to walk away. I admit I've walked away from the A's. I'm not going to the Coliseum anymore. I might write about, whether they move to Vegas and what John Fisher's doing, whatever. But the product itself, I'm not covering. I didn't cover the Raiders the last year. They were in Oakland. I just like you decided that the Bay Area is not important to you to give you any more attention, that you decided to pass away. The Sharks, I used to do Sharks columns, Damon Bruce, back in the day. I am not doing Sharks columns now.
Oh, happy opening day, by the way. Happy puck drops tonight, right, for the Sharks, I think?
Emergency podcast on that one. Or probably not. And God bless them. God bless Sharks fans. I'm not doing it. In that order.
That's where it is.
And
well, I tell you what, Tim, it sounds like your internet is starting to crack one more time here. And I asked you for about 20 minutes today. We're double that. Leave a host on his own recognizance or his own regards, and he just keeps going and going and going. Thank you so much for joining me today. It was great to catch up with you. You were very nice to volunteer an appearance right at the dawn of all this, and you made good on that. Thank you so much, Tim. I really appreciate it. And have yourself a great day, great weekend, and I'll be seeing you at Chase Center real soon.
Great. And listen, again, I say I really respect and admire people who do and have the confidence to do it, have the opinion to do it, have the brains to do it. So I respect everything you're doing, Damon. Glad to be.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. Tim Kawakami, everybody. There he is. That's the king of the Bay Area sports media right there. And I certainly appreciate his time. I had a couple more questions about Kapler and Farhan, but his internet was breaking up there a little bit at the end, and I didn't want to have to redial with him. We kept him longer than I even said he would. So really appreciate Tim Kawakami coming on today. Say that 2 times fast. And let me just tell you what we're doing here now. We're going to take the headphones off, and we're staying right here. I thought, should I do the Kawakami interview power down and ask everyone to come and click once again on something else at 11 o'clock to do the Plus. Nah, we're just going to keep going, baby. So welcome. Welcome to the Plus. It is good to have you here. Thank you so much. As many of you probably have already been discussing over on the chat, which I haven't had open even for a minute here, we are well past the sip of the day. So we just got to work ourselves around that. We're going to have to get past that. But really, thanks very much for Tim coming on, man. This is a really interesting time in Bay Area sports. I mean, you've got a bona fide, like, greatest dynasty you've ever seen kind of in the Golden State Warriors, trying to throw one last punch at the NBA before it's officially no longer their time. And you've got a football team that is in every single day, in every action, and everything that's happening around it, very much making the statement that it is our time. The 49ers are feeling and looking extra frisky these days. So, with an odd baseball offseason officially on tap, where the San Francisco Giants are going to be looking for a manager, and we'll see if the A's are officially looking for Mayflower moving trucks. We'll all find out when that starts happening. But we got hockey coming back tonight. I'll watch a little Sharks hockey. Sure, it's a good thing to have on in the background. And I just can't wait for Warriors basketball to start back up again, man. That is just good stuff as far as I'm concerned. And I think as far as you're concerned too. So really looking forward to all of it. Before we go any further, I feel like we need to say thank you very much to the sponsors that make the Plus go round. And I'll tell you, my man Ike is one of the first up to bat to make this thing go round and round. I just saw him offer free sandwiches to listeners yesterday. I think he gave someone in the chat room sandwiches for a year yesterday. He and his people are going to give me the ability to craft a gift card for people who are coming on this show as guests, which is a really nice thing to do. Ike, you're supporting me in so many different ways. I really appreciate it, man. I know that you're, people get excited to talk to you in the chat. You're a big part of this, to say the least. And had we done the Tim Kawakami interview later, we would have approached Tim with a gift card, but we haven't figured out the way that we're giving them out yet. So Tim is the last official guest to not get a sandwich from Ike. Sorry, Tim, coming up here on Damon Bruce Plus. I want you to find out how good my handicapper Stefan is. The man is on fire. The man is helping this family see itself through some financial troubles with a little sprinkle on top of every day that we get out of him. And I don't go overboard when I make bets. I got to be very, very careful these days with the cash. I should be betting $1,000 a game on every single game that Stefan tells me to bet on, because the man just wins. He just wins. I've never seen anything like it. He has glommed on to the fact that, like, team run totals are his specialty in this postseason. Stefan's bets are usually in the barn, cashed as winners by the third or fourth inning lately. Way that these games are like, it's 6-0 at the end of the second inning in every playoff game I'm looking at. And Stefan is usually on the side of the team run total was 3.5 today, and that was done before there were 3 outs in the ball game. Get yourself to bottomlinebets.com. You sign up for a free day of handicapping by using promo code Damon. The man's been extraordinarily hot. You're either going to take advantage of it or you're not. Get in there, promo code Damon for a free day of handicapping, daily, weekly, monthly subscriptions available. It's time you find out for yourself how good my friend Stefan is at bottomlinebets.com. By the way, the t-shirt that I am wearing today is another Jack's t-shirt. This is the Oakland Oaks, which of course is the ABA team that Rick Barry played for. No longer there. Like so many other teams in Oakland, no longer there. But great old logo, great t-shirt. Jack's t-shirts are the absolute best. Go to jackssf.com, JACKSSF.com. And when you are checking out, use promo code DamonBruce10 to get 10% off your Jack's t-shirt order. And you can get all your holiday shopping there done in one visit to the website. It's the coolest vintage t-shirts I've ever seen produced in any Bay Area t-shirt shop. They got a brick and mortar on Chestnut Street. Check out their website, Damon Bruce 10 for 10% off. Go ahead and I dare you to only want to buy one t-shirt when you see the collection. It's incredible. So there you go. Our sponsors are taken care of, and technically we're 9 minutes before the show even normally starts, which means this day is moving right along. We are ahead of schedule. That is beautiful. Getting back to the actual matter at hand with the 49ers getting ready to play a football game. The football game, there are no easy football games, but sometimes games on the surface of them do get easier. And it looks like that's the way this game is breaking for the 49ers. Now, look, it's not going to be easy for Trent Williams to block Myles Garrett, and that's going to be a hell of a matchup right there. You got the best left tackle in football going up against the highest pass-rated pass rusher, rushing the passer grade in the NFL in Myles Garrett. So that is a heavyweight matchup. Any game can be decided along the line of scrimmage, and if you don't get right there, it doesn't matter who's playing quarterback for anybody, but it doesn't look like Deshaun Watson's going to be playing quarterback, and it doesn't look like their rookie is going to be playing quarterback. It looks, and news out of Cleveland is simply that we have PJ Walker elevated. Is this the way it's going to go? I'm still waiting for it officially, but all news out of Cleveland is that Kevin Stefanski isn't letting Deshaun talk to any media today. The shoulder problem remains a shoulder problem for him, and it looks like they're going to be elevating PJ Walker to the number 2 QB this week off the practice squad, and there's a very good chance that PJ Walker will get the start in front of Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the rookie from UCLA, because the rookie really struggled against the Ravens last week. And if you're struggling against the Ravens, how are you going to look against the 49ers? Again, Kevin Stefanski is doing the is it worth it math. Is it worth it math? You know, we got 12 more games to play after this 49ers game. Is it worth it to risk Deshaun Watson's recovering shoulder or buy him another week? It looks like that decision's been made. They're going to shelve him. And then, you know, are they punting on this 49er game? No, they're not. They're going to try to win it. But good luck with PJ Walker. And again, if you're the 49ers, think about it. You got a 2-game road trip through Cleveland and Minnesota. And if you could, okay, so you hand Kyle Shanahan a roster. Here's your Browns roster. Here's your Vikings roster. You get to pick one player who doesn't play in each of these games. I think Kyle Shanahan's picking Deshaun Watson, and then he's picking Justin Jefferson. And as it stands right now, the 49ers are going to see neither guy. Jefferson's on IR, and it doesn't seem like Watson's playing on Sunday. So, again, the 5-0 start in the vacuum of just the 49ers' 5-0 start has been extraordinary. The overall picture of how the league is breaking around them and how their schedule is starting to unfold in front of them. Look, you don't assume anything in the NFL. You don't add 2 theoretical wins before the games are even played. 7-0 is definitely out there. 7-0 is out there for this 49ers team, and they know it. They can taste it. They can see it. And these should be games that drift as much as you're allowed to drift into the lane of that got easy. Both these games against Minnesota and Cleveland could drift into the lanes of that was easier than we expected it to be. Now, Cleveland still has a stoic level, very good defense that obviously Deshaun Watson can't affect whether he plays or not, but that's also not true. It's avoiding bad situations and short fields, and quarterbacks are important. Starting quarterbacks are important. I don't think I have to sell that to anyone around here. Saw some interesting stats unearthed by Nick Wagner about just the complete overwhelming nature of this 49ers team so far. I've told you that Kyle Shanahan wants to be a front runner. He wants an early lead. His game plan is to get a lead and to bleed clock and to sit on it. And now you're not only playing the Niners, but you're playing the clock that is dwindling to triple zeros. Like, that's what Kyle wants. Kyle wants a big fat lead in the second half, and he can just sit on it. Well, the 49ers are the only team in the league that hasn't trailed its opponent in the second half so far this season. Nick Wagner had that. As a matter of fact, the Niners have run a grand total of 7 offensive plays while trailing this season. That's it. They've only run 7 offensive plays from behind in a game. Every other team in the NFL has run at least 36 offensive plays while trailing on the scoreboard. Not the Niners, only 7, and none of those plays were run in the second half of a single game that they've been in. So the Niners are just not only doing it in a way that is ultra satisfying for you to watch, because it's been a lot of fun. I mean, they're ringing up that scoreboard like it's a pinball machine. But they're also, while they're doing that, still exactly what Kyle wants. A bully that doesn't risk it, that controls a game, that suffocates the other team like a boa constrictor, the way that they just wrap around you and just squeeze and squeeze. That's what Kyle wants. And that's what this team is really doing. Mitch Wisnowski, 49ers punter, is also just state-of-the-art right now. Nick had this one as well. Nick Wagner. Wisnowski leads the NFL in percentage of punts inside the 20, percentage of punts inside the 5-yard line, and he's leading the NFL in opponent starting field position right around the 16-yard line. Like, that's pretty damn good. As a matter of fact, that means the 49ers also have the best punter in the NFL, for goodness sakes. Remember when we were worried about special teams? They got the measurably best punter in the NFL, and the rookie kicker that you were all worried about missing kicks hasn't missed a kick yet. Things are just off to an extraordinary start. I mean, a really, really extraordinary start. And you can tell that this is the week that everybody decided they were going to lean into the Niners from a nationwide standpoint and really get to know this football team. And the bit of evidence that I have of that is yesterday was the single most viewed day in the history of this channel. There have been weeks when, all the videos that I put up, all the things that we've done here, going back to the summer when it wasn't football yet and basketball was over and it was just baseball and it was August and no one gives a shit. There was like a day where I had 800 views, which for a guy who had the highest rated sports afternoon drive time show in Northern California, I can't even tell you how humbling that is. Like, oh, here I am in a new space. Let's see how the channel did today. How many people came to see what I'm talking about? It would be 800 people. And I just look at Jillian and I said, what, am I kidding myself? What are we doing? What am I doing? Am I out of my mind trying to do this over here? That's when my buddy Larry Kruger would give me a call and he'd just say, Damon, just keep patient, man. Just keep going. Just keep your head down. Don't worry about this day-to-day stuff. Just keep on going. Keep producing great content. People are going to find you. Yesterday, the channel got viewed 24,000 times. The combination of videos that were up 24,000 views, which again, for some people is, that's nothing. That would be a terrible day for some people. For me, it's the best day. And all of a sudden, the audience is just starting to tick up like this. It's not called a hockey stick, but it's a nice little slope going upwards. And I thank you all for being a part of it. And I truly, truly mean it. You are a huge part of this. We're going to get an extended Club Plus today. Why not? Why wouldn't we hang out for about an hour over in Club Plus? By the way, I need to get this chat up. I don't want to miss any super chats or anything like that. We're at the part of the chat room where I was telling Tim Kawakami about the Ralph Mike Nolan story. Okay, so that's how far we are behind on the chat.
What are you doing in here? Don't you have a football team to be coaching? Why are you wasting your precious time talking to us?
Again, he was joking and not joking all at the same time. So, God, before we slip on into Club Plus and hang out there for a little bit today, let me update you on something that I thought was very, very interesting, and it's why Major League Baseball needs to go ahead and rethink its playoff format. I like the wild cards. I was Mr. Anti-wild card. I see the benefit in the wild card now. What we need, though, in the divisional round is a 7-game series. And the wild card round's got to go from a 3-game series to a 5-game series. I can't even imagine how bad some of these baseball postseason ratings are going to be. I already saw that the wild card round was down 18%. We talked about that yesterday in terms of viewership. These games, the reason why my man Stefan is cashing winners in the third inning is because it's like 6-0. It's 6-0 every time I look up in the third or fourth inning in all of these games. They've been lopsided early leads, and the other team is kind of out of the game before they even get into it. These are not games that people tune into and stick around to watch unless you're a fan of that team, in which case that's gold, and you're thrilled with it. You don't want to take your eyeballs off of it. But that doesn't bring in any casual fan. Nobody sees a game is 7-0 in the fourth inning and is like, "Oh man, I'm watching this to its conclusion." It just doesn't happen. So the ratings are just going to be down once again. And then you look at who is getting eliminated. Like all the big teams in the big markets. Au revoir, Doyers. Au revoir. But, I mean, we could very well have a World Series between the Texas Rangers and the Arizona Diamondbacks. And if you, on any random night of the summer, offered America, you want to watch a Diamondbacks-Rangers game, 99% of America would be like, nah, we're good. Don't need that. Now, I'll watch it. There's no such thing as a bad World Series in my mind, but in the network's mind, oof. Saw a tweet from Jeff Passan saying that this October, it's been rough on regular season win totals. Like the 104-win Atlanta Braves are down 2-1 in the NLDS, and it's a must-win for the Atlanta Braves tonight. They lose, and their season is over. That's this afternoon, as a matter of fact. You had the 101-win Baltimore Orioles. They got swept. You had the 100-win Los Angeles Dodgers. They got swept. The 99-win Tampa Bay Rays. They got swept. 92-win Milwaukee team. They got swept in the wild card. 90-win Houston, Texas. Well, Houston and Texas, both 90 wins. They're both in the ALCS. And Philadelphia is away from the NLCS. And at 84 wins, Arizona is in. 16 games behind the Dodgers. 1 round advancing past the Dodgers. Sweeping the Dodgers. Nice job, Diamondbacks. Seriously, nice job. That's amazing, though. That's really amazing. When is baseball math going to start suggesting you don't want to win 100 games if you want to be a good playoff team? It's crazy, but that's where we are. I do think these early rounds need to see the number of games in these series expanded like an accordion. Again, a 3-game series in the postseason ain't enough. That's got to be a 5-game series in the wild card round, and then everything after that should be 7. Baseball really is perfect sometimes, though. And I do want to talk about Bruce Bochy here for a minute. Sarah Slangs, if you follow her on Twitter, she had a really interesting observation saying that, the Orioles won 101 games and weren't swept all season long. The Orioles didn't see Broomhilda once. They handed out some Broomhildas, but they did not date Broomhilda for a single day. They weren't swept once all season long. Then they get to October, and they get swept out of the playoffs without a single win to show for their American League East title. That's brutal. All those years waiting to get back, you win the American League East, and you get swept. Ouch. The only other team to ever have that happen to them was the 1998 Padres, who, by the way, were managed by Bruce Bochy, who is in the dugout now of that Texas team that did that to the Baltimore Orioles. Time is a flat circle. That is fantastic. So Bruce Bochy had it happen to him, and then he just did it. There is a really good story written by Tim Kuhn on ESPN.com right now, and it's called The Radical Calm of Bruce Bochy. I love that title. The Radical Calm of Bruce Bochy. How great is that? Seriously, how great is that? One of the coolest things Bruce Bochy ever said to me, this was, I think, before Bochy won his first championship. This is like 2008, 9. Yeah, this is before the first title. The Giants had done something totally inglorious on the field, and it was one of those bad losses at home. And the media is assembled around Bruce Bochy in his office, and it was a really frustrating loss. And there's Boch just sitting there, taking it just in stride, no panic. He's not angry. And it was a night where a manager, if they were going to get angry at their team, might get angry at the team. And I remember asking Bruce Bochy, I'm like, Bruce, this is a really frustrating game tonight. Doesn't an evening like this just make you want to walk into the players' lounge and flip over the buffet table? And Boch, as he was, would tend to do, he'd put his arms up like this over his head. And he just said, well, no, because we got to eat tomorrow night. That's everything you need to know about Bruce Bochy. Everything you need to know about the man. The radical calmness of Bruce Bochy, to me, I learned in that moment. I didn't even realize that I had learned something in that moment. It was only when I looked back at that moment in hindsight, after 3 World Series, that I began to truly appreciate it. Hey, Bruce, you so angry at your team you want to flip the buffet table over? Nah, we got to eat again tomorrow night. In other words, I'm not going to do anything performative. I'm not going to do anything symbolic because we got another game coming up tomorrow, and that's what this sport is. And you got to roll with the punches, good and bad, and you never get too high and you never get too low. The radical calm of Bruce Bochy. I just freaking love that. I need that. That needs to be on a T-shirt. Somebody tell Jax, put that on. The radical calm of Bruce Bochy. And then just 3 World Series championships. And then you can go ahead and even have another T-shirt that says the stupid hand tattoo of Gabe Kapler. It's amazing to me. And I really don't know which fact is more emblematic of where the Giants are in the baseball universe right now. But which is more emblematic? The fact that Bruce Bochy's 4 wins away from another World Series appearance, or that Gabe Kapler got fired with 3 games remaining in the regular season? Which sums up the amalgamation of the Gabe Kapler era more than that question? That Gabe couldn't even last the year before he had to go, or that Bochy, who got forced out for this guy, is 4 wins away from a World Series appearance and 8 wins away from another championship. It's amazing. It's freaking amazing. G. Martinez over here in the chat. Should we officially start Club Plus? I mean, if we're officially going to start Club Plus here, we need to let everybody on the podcast know that it's been great having you here. Today's podcast started with a 40-minute Tim Kawakami interview that I really enjoyed. I thought he was fantastic and forthright and talked about his career and the teams. And I love that conversation. I hope you did too. G. Martinez says, thank you, Tim. Thank you. Ernie Chavez. Yosarian. Thanks, TK. Indeed, Ernie Chavez says, Tim is a legend. Like Damon. No, I'm not a legend. No. Nathaniel Richards. Thank you, TK. Thank you. Thanks for doing that. Here you go. Thanks for doing this, Tim. I got an Ike's gift card for you. Connect us. Ike, I will connect you. I got to connect you with someone else today, too. So I'll be sending out those emails today, brother. Thank you so much. If you're listening on the podcast, I say thank you so much for doing that. It's growing. It's grown even more than at the rate that got us to 100,000 downloads. The months of September and October have been very good to us over here, and we're not even halfway through the football season. So thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for growing this with us, with me. It means so much. And please do remember as you go about your lovely Thursday that sports don't build character, they reveal it. And like that, he is gone. Yeah. Hello. Welcome to Club Plus. Now, if you just joined us, right? If you just joined us, you're like, why are you in Club Plus just 11 minutes into the show? We're an hour and 11 minutes into the show. We started earlier today with a big interview with Tim. We've been kind of vamping since then, and I see that the chat is just flying. So let's hop into it. Let's go. The Plus segue. Let's go. Thank you very much, San Bruno Mike. It's Ethan Sherwood Strauss called me the king of segues once. And I said, well, thank you. It is, if you're talking, you got to go in and out of segments. You got to do it. Skill set you got to have. And yeah, indeed. Sip of the day off the board. Rob C note. Wait, did something happen? I missed it. Or are we just saying hello to Rob C note? Because I did see him in the house. But I have not seen. Rob C is saying that the sip of the day went under the 11. Okay. Here we go. Rob, always good to see you here, man. Wait a minute. The Tim Kawakami interview was sponsored by the Rob C note. Did Rob did Rob make it jingle jangle harder than anyone again? Is Rob hanging off the rim of a super chat, grabbing his nuts, screaming on somebody that he just dunked on with a very generous donation? Look at it this way. Why would I assume anything else? Because the man has done that. Thank you very much. This is Erwin saying, Damon, now you have ammo to bring TK back. T-shirts and sandwiches. Exactly. Again, if we can't just lure you in with the prospects of a very interesting sports conversation, we'll straight up bribe you. We'll go sandwiches. Damon, that Oakland Oak shirt is sick. Drew Down, you can have one delivered to your house today for 10% off. Go to jaxsf.com. Use promo code DamonBruce10. Order one for you. Order 5 more for 5 more families of your members of your family, and you're good. Smiley Dan says, I met Tim Kawakami on a BART train headed to Oakland. We talked sports the whole time. When he got off, another guy in the train said, wow, Tim Kawakami was nice. I had no idea. What a cool dude. Look, Tim is a nice guy. He just goes about his business in a way that means we can't all be friends at the same time. Again, if you're going to be a good journalist, you have to rock boats a little. You have to. You have to. One of the reasons, and there are many reasons why journalism, I don't want to say is dying or has died, but one of the reasons why journalism doesn't carry the gravity and the weight that it used to is because there are too many unqualified people masquerading as journalists. And we live in a world where everybody's so mamby-pamby nice to each other, trying to come across as always politically correct, always saying the right thing, that like people are afraid to be a little bit of an asshole. Even though, I mean, like anonymously on the internet, oh yeah, everyone likes to do that. But in person, sometimes you got to break some eggs to make an omelet as a journalist, and it's going to rub people the wrong way. And then one of the elements of fandom that has really changed in my lifetime is the fact that fans defend their team in a way that would make you believe that they were related to them. Like, oh, how dare you ask that question? Like, you're not supposed to care about the questions being asked at press conferences as a fan. You're supposed to care about, did my team win or lose tonight? But people just get so sensitive around everything. And having said all that, Tim is way too sensitive the way that people approach him on Twitter. He's got to realize, like, dude, I just need to back away from this. Like, don't let people get at me. But it's a lot easier said than done. Luckily, I myself am, if not a professional asshole, an amateur asshole, semi-pro. And I have lived long enough and have rubbed enough people the wrong way to where I don't even care about that anymore. Like I remember when Butcher Boy was very early in his, hey, I'm now on the radio on a morning show in a major market element of his career where he's just starting, and it was an awesome opportunity for him. And he would be like, Damon, how do you deal with these people on Twitter who just keep coming at you? I'm like, well, number one, it's new to you, so you're definitely not used to it, but you will get used to it. You will get used to it. And in the meantime, the best advice I can give you is just ignore it. I mean, if you got somebody so riled up that they are interacting with you, even if it's in a negative way, you have their full attention, and you are in the getting people's full attention business now, and this is good. But it's not for everybody. Living in that public that public life is not for everyone. You got to be ready to have the forks and knives sharpened and coming after you. It's going to happen. Old Dirty Hungus says Cleveland is tapping out. Everybody in San Francisco beats you up. This is a business decision. Look, it's probably the prudent business decision. Kevin Stefanski, even if he risks, by the way, here's another. Maybe this could be the sip of the day, right? If the carafe kept it nice and hot. Let's see. Listen to that. Is that like ASMR? Is that one? Oh, yeah. Ooh. Tinkle, tinkle, tinkle. No, it's way too under temperature to be sip of the day. Sip of the day officially off the board, everyone. Sorry. Kevin Stefanski's making the right decision for his team's longer term. Sometimes you got to lose a battle on the way to winning a war. And I just think Stefanski knows, even if we had Deshaun Watson out here playing, the risk of him being re-injured or doing further damage to this rotator cuff so outweighs the value of this one game that I need to buy him another week. And if we got to lose to the Niners while we were buying my guy another week, we were probably going to fucking lose to the Niners anyways. So just do it. Or who knows, maybe PJ Walker has the single greatest football game ever recorded, and we will be wondering why the legend of PJ Walker has derailed the 49ers. But I'm not betting on that. And probably you shouldn't either. All right. What do we got? We got people arguing about cap locks. We got Rob saying all caps. Rob C is in all caps. What's going on? Cap locks. I don't know what's going on in this cap lock conversation. San Bruno Mike, though, he wants you to know that there's nothing sexier in the punt game than a coffin corner going inside that 5-yard line. I mean, the only thing that's better than that, and I hear what you're saying, is when you got a gunner who is down there tapping the ball back from the 1-yard line. And we've seen that this year with the Niners punt coverage crew. So, yeah, I like a sexy punt. I do. I like sexy punts. I like fake punts. Always have, always will. What else have we got going on here? Nathaniel Richards saying, when's the best time to check out 1320? Is that a radio station up in Sacramento? Is that my guy Kyle Madsen? I wish that kid I call him a kid. He's not a kid. He's married, but a kid to me anyways. But I seriously, I was upset about getting laid off. I was less upset about Ray getting laid off. I was very upset about Kyle getting laid off. Let's see. Wait for Warriors season, Damon. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait for the NBA to get back. I do love basketball so much, and to have, 80 plus games of Steph Curry, hopefully, say a little prayer. Oh man, one of the things I did forget to ask Tim about, and this is important. This is a big part of today's show that I totally forgot about. Did you see that there was a report in the NBA that basically said, yeah, we've rethought this load management stuff and it's all kind of bullshit and we're not into it anymore? Did you see that? Remember how I always used to tell you that, yeah, all this load management is just nonsense and it's asset protection disguised as pseudo-medical science? And I remember like Kolsky and I getting in a big argument about this. And he's like, no, man, the scientists say, and I've talked to Steve about this and Raymond Ritter about this and how, oh, yeah, we got all these numbers back and scientists have said and studies have said and reports are saying that if you get this player rested here, he'll be better. Yep, turns out, no, that's kind of all bullshit. And concern about dwindling ratings will now be superseding any concept of load management. Now, look, that should not apply to the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors are one franchise that is officially old enough to still be in the load managing business. But basically what the NBA has said, hey, Greg Popovich, the guy who invented load management, let me tell you what we don't want to see from you. Coach DNP's load management for Victor Wembanyama this year. We got to see him on the court all the time. And look, that's the way players used to play. On the court all the time was not some weird or foreign concept, for goodness sakes. So, good to see some real man shit being built back into NBA concepts of who's playing tonight. The answer to who's playing tonight should always be in professional sports, anyone who's not hurt. That's who's playing tonight. This shouldn't be radical thinking, right? David says, D, Bruce, keep doing your thing. Thank you very, very much. Great content. I appreciate that. Again, we had people responding to the channel yesterday in ways that were unforeseen. You build it, the people will come. Thank you, Drew Down. I do appreciate that. The Krug and Bruce disciple. Keep going. Yeah, we will. We will. We will keep going. Damon, you're pretty much all I listen to these days. I'm completely crossed over. Yes, Leslie. And look, I'm completely crossed over. I am fully in the burn the boats mode now that I'm on YouTube. Should radio send a boat? I'll see what they send along in the boat. If they come for me, it's a maybe. But I was just looking at, websites that track social media growth and where this all goes and If this continues to grow the way it is 2 years from now, I'm going to be making I'll be better off than I was in radio. And at that point, there's no going back, right? I mean, radio is just simply dying. Every time I look up, there's some talented person getting cut from some station in some market because of whatever reason that they're disguising the concept of nobody's listening. We don't have advertisers. We're not making money anymore. And people got to go. And that's every radio station in America. You know, YouTube is officially not going anywhere. The other elements of all media right now are officially going somewhere. Not YouTube, though. It's not going anywhere. Yosaria knows it. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. Oh, Damon, your story was awesome. I'm guessing that's the Mike Nolan story. It was, here I am. I'm the new guy. I had been working at KNBR for a month and a half. I mean, this is at the very, very beginning. So this is 2000. So I've been there a little bit longer because this happened before the 2006 season. Because I got to KNBR in October of 2005. October 24th, 2005 was my very first night on KNBR as a full-time host. And then it was Mike Nolan coming in to preview the next football season. But I was still very new. And, I hadn't even really met Ralph yet. I talked to him a little bit, but I still didn't know much about the guy. I think I'd been in the same room with Radich just a handful of times. Tolbert, we're all together sitting around this big conference table. And Ralph just eviscerates the concept.
Why is this even happening?
Only Ralph, man. Only Ralph. They ain't never going to make a guy like that ever again. Suck it, Doyers. Erwin, I think you speak for a lot of people, so thank you. Kevin Kleinsasser says, I feel bad and lost in sports when I don't listen to Damon's show every day. This has become a part of my daily life. I mean, come on, man. Why don't you just come on over here and kiss me on both cheeks? You're making me feel beautiful. Thank you so very, very much. And I mean these cheeks, not the other ones. But thank you. Thank you very much. Damon, we need a compliment of you and Larry impersonating Ralph. A competition? A compilation? We'll get you something. What I think we need to do is the Ralph Barbieri, Trent Baalke interview that never happened. We don't know who's going to play who. Sharks Bob saying, do you realize that if Arizona does this, Mad Bum gets another ring? He would. But here's what I like about Madison Bumgarner. He is just stubborn enough to never claim it. He wouldn't claim that ring. I mean, he literally might not even show up to claim it. Mad Bum getting another ring. Sporticus says the wild card sweeps had to pummel viewership. I agree about extending the wild card to the best of 5 simply to guarantee every playoff fan base a home game in the playoffs. Yeah, once they've taken these 3-game series and said they're all only going to happen in one park, that does screw over a fan base for sure. Joseph. Thank you, Joseph. I think you're the best. Is it time to start tanking for wild cards? Look at the success that they're having. It's nuts. It's nuts. Winning 100 games in your own division doesn't seem to be a help to the teams that do it. This is Jason saying, Damon, the problem with the 7-game NLDS series is you'd have a wild card game during Thanksgiving. Hey, how about all this? Why don't we bring back the concepts of doubleheader? Why don't we start the season a little bit earlier and not run into this completely man-made nonsense that is we don't have enough time to fit this postseason in? That is a man-made nonsensical decision. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. Start the year earlier. Start the year earlier. Condense all the days that it takes to play your regular season by scheduling a few doubleheaders. I mean, there's a way to do it's amazing how there's a way to do this, and the only thing you need to do to figure out the right way to do this would be to crack a history book. How did they used to do it? Well, they would just play more. Oh, what a concept. San Bruno Mike says it's amazing that a Hall of Fame pitcher like Kershaw vomits on his own shoes in the playoffs, yet dominate in the regular season. It really is something else. Here's another, by the way, little stat to just let you know how much it came off. All the wheels came off of the Dodgers car once they hit the postseason this year. Howard Balzer shared this on Twitter. In this series against Arizona, Dodgers starting pitchers totaled a grand total of 4.2 innings, allowed 13 runs, had a 2.5.07 ERA, so an ERA over 25, and a 5.71 batting average against. Oh, it's got to be one of the worst rotational performances in postseason history. And a lot of that obviously falls on Kershaw, but God almighty. This is very true from Sporticus. These playoffs are further proof that building a roster to make the playoffs and building a roster to win the World Series are different things. They really are. They really are. You know, if you are taking an entire team and building it around the concept of, and the math will work out in our favor over 162 games, what do you do when you hit the postseason? Because you're not playing, we got 162 games for the math to work out baseball anymore. You're playing, hey, stars, whip it out and swing it. That's what the postseason's all about. What it's all about. That's why stars are shining everywhere. God, did you see those Bryce Harper home runs? Dude, Philadelphia baseball fans are louder than Eagles fans. I mean, it's like cocaine day at the ballpark. Like everybody gets a free 8-ball coming on in. That place is wired. That place is absolutely wired. If you think about it, UCC says, hey, you know, the Giants are now just as good as the Rockies. There you go. I mean, that's who you're measuring yourself against. '49er Ultimate Report says, I've been following the San Francisco Giants for as long as I can remember, and I've never had my hopes up for this team. Well, I mean, you probably did when they were winning World Series, but I hear what you're saying. Here's the thing. Early enough in the year, I thought, all right, maybe they have found some sort of crazy Farhan equation that will carry them through the year. Not 107 wins, but look, there was a point in this season where the Giants, you know, were like 90% assured to be a playoff team. And then everything that could go wrong did for them on the road, and it didn't work. Sky Collins said, is the hand tattoo of a coconut? No, Sky. The hand tattoo of Gabe Kapler was a rose. Okay. And put a rose on your hand there, big fella? Go ahead. Damon, Bochy's demeanor is the perfect metaphor for the 162-game marathon of the baseball season. Patience required. It's the truth. Being steady Eddie, steady Eddie. It's amazing what happens when you give Bruce Bochy a team with some actual major leaguers and some talent on it. Good things can happen. When you strip Bruce Bochy of a team, he has the last 3 years that he had in San Francisco, and you start saying things like, do you think you could do better than Bruce Bochy? And the answer is really no, you couldn't. Because what you want is a guy that shows you, when you give me what I need, I can get this done. So don't let years where I'm not given what I need start defining what you think is my ability to get it done anymore. The Giants changed around Bruce Bochy. Bruce Bochy never changed. That is on full display in that Texas dugout. You hear the Rangers talk about this guy, and they're just, all they say is, Bruce is like a spirit animal. He is responsible for all of this, yet he will take credit for absolutely none of it. And every guy in here respects him because of that, and almost that alone. Chris Bloomberg. A little super chat, a little jingle jangle. Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate that. How was Peter Gabriel consider going to Death Cab, the Postal Service show at the Greek? I'm not doing that, but I might be at the Wilco show on Saturday. I know a buddy of mine's got an extra ticket with my name on it. I might go see Wilco at the Greek. Again, I'm not a big Death Cab for Cutie. I don't really know the Postal Service. But those are good bands. Here's the thing. Any band I kind of like, if they're playing at the Greek, I'd like to go see them because I love the Greek that much. Let me get back to Peter Gabriel. Jillian and I left the show early. It was awful. I hate to say this. Peter Gabriel's got a fantastically talented band. He can still sing, not the notes that he used to hit, but Peter Gabriel had the least energetic, no one stood up but for Sledgehammer the entire time. And I understand it's an older crowd, but there's not a single moment where Peter let the music do the talking. Peter Gabriel played a collection of boring, slow songs that no one recognized, that nobody wanted to hear. And in between those songs, he basically gave a lecture that sounded like an English professor. And it was just, between every single song, you'd get Peter Gabriel saying like, when I was a young boy, I used to sit underneath an olive tree. And that olive tree provided shade and comfort. This next song is called Olive Tree. In between every single song, hey, Peter Gabriel, feel free to have like one song roll into another. Like your band can keep going. You can kind of segue from one song into another. I'm not asking you to be Fish, but we don't need to stop the song and give a 90-plus second diatribe of some olive tree that reassured you when you were a child in between every single song. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. We were very happy to be invited to the show. We did. Look at it this way. The reason why I didn't start with how bad that Peter Gabriel show was is because we were invited, we were guests. I didn't pay for the ticket. And you're not allowed to complain about something that you didn't pay for. But it was bad. It's the worst concert of any major artist who I deeply respect, whose music I like. And you know what? He's in his 70s. So, maybe I got to Peter Gabriel too late, but you could hear a pin drop in Chase Center as he's like, and this olive tree provided comfort for me as a young boy, the shade and the branches and the willows and the bark and the olive tree. This next song is called Olive Tree. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? It didn't work. And I was talking about it with Jillian today, as a matter of fact. What was wrong with that concert? And I think I've concluded with it. What we saw out of Peter Gabriel is what happens when an artist does a show for himself and not his audience. That's what's happening. That's what's happening. When the artist does a show for their own liking, not considering what the audience might want, that's the concert that you get. So I'm sorry to report, Peter Gabriel, no bueno. All right. Stacy is now confirming Rob C. Note dropped the bag. Rob, thank you so very, very much. To Benji. And yes, you missed it. Rob, I'm sorry that I missed it, brother. Thank you very, very much. I really do appreciate it. Rob C. Note, my man. You know, here's the thing. Everyone else thinks they're off the hook. I mean, here I am. We're reaching a second hour in today's show. We started an hour earlier. We're still going. Support the channel, folks. So, look, man. Thank you very much, Rob. What do we got here? Journalism died when when everyone started their own blogs before a podcast. Here's the thing. Journalism died when you started to not be able to recognize the difference between an actual journalist reporting on a story that they cover and somebody just spouting off in their own way. And the person spouting off in their own way can at times provide a level of thinking about something that is valuable. But when there is no gatekeeper to information gets confused, and we have the world that we now live in. Drew Down says, Damon, if you haven't seen it, please Google Steve Ballmer rubbing thighs. You won't be disappointed. Oh, no, I've seen that. Steve Ballmer literally during Clippers games will start rubbing the thigh of the person sitting next to him in a way that you would think that he was about to ask you if you're here alone tonight and if you'd like to go up to your hotel room. Remember, fellas, if she's touching your thigh within inside of 10 minutes, she's working. But yeah, I have seen the Steve Ballmer thigh guy video. Absolutely, I have. Oh, we've reached the me pouring my coffee portion of the chat room. The sound of a good long pour. Isn't it lovely? Isn't it lovely? Sporticus, again, just dropping nuggets of wisdom all over here. Part of integrity is the ability to be the bad guy for the right reasons, especially when those right reasons won't be fully understood at the time. Ding, ding, ding. Again, if you want to be a good journalist, you can't be everybody's friend. You can't. So I love it. Sporticus, just knowledge. Lots of, there's still talk about cap locks and crap locks and mat locks and, okay. Speaking of Victor Wembanyama, him and Chet Holmgren should battle for a cheeseburger after the game. Yeah, we got two skinny guys over there. But did you see the ridiculous lines that they put up? Like, dude, Chet Holmgren, we haven't gotten to know him yet. He's a player. He's going to be a player. ESPN can only afford Pat McAfee and Stephen A. Smith, and those two guys get paid very, very well, and I don't begrudge them their payment, but if you think about allocating resources as they're dwindling, spending that much money on two guys, I really don't get it. And look, I'm not trying to rip Pat McAfee in any way. I congratulate him on his success. He has found something. He has tapped into something. I don't know what that something is. I don't get it. I've watched his show. I've watched the act. I've seen him on the set at Game Day. I don't get it. What am I missing? He's a kind of funny former punter. Is that now the epicenter of all new media? I don't get it. I don't get it. Some people clearly do, but I don't get the allure of that. Where it's not about the story, it's about my reaction to the story. Like, I'm the star of the show. That's the thing. Like, to me, hopefully, at all times, sports are the star of this show. Now, obviously, what I think about them, yes, that's going to come into play. But at no point in time will I be like, join me tomorrow to watch me react to a team's result. I just don't do that. And that's what do people want that? What do we got? Postman Capitola. Says, I'm guessing no one in the chat room won the 1.7. It was billion though, right? $1 billion jackpot last night. I heard it was done down at in the Grapevine. Outside of Los Angeles there, when you're making the drive down the 5. But no, nobody here won the $1.7 billion. Baron Red. Ben Mahler overnight radio is pretty good. The drunk callers are funny. Oh, yeah, the drunk callers on overnight radio are funny when they still call in and nail their drunk call bit. And look, Ben Mahler is good. He's a talented broadcaster. He's good. He knows how to spot a story. He knows how to pick through it. I think he's good at what he does. Always have. Oh, you know who I did get to see, by the way? Just bumped into her at the Peter Gabriel concert was Gianna. And Gianna invited me to KPIX tomorrow morning. So if you're up early, I'm going to be on KPIX with Gianna tomorrow morning at about 6:45 in the morning. So early risers, the Plus will start over there tomorrow. And then we'll come back here for our 11 o'clock Friday, wrap it up. I think Larry Kruger and I got a little something we're cooking up. And then, of course, I want you to join me on Sunday around 1:15, 1:30 is when that 2 o'clock or 2-minute warning should be happening, I should say. In the 49ers and Browns game, we go live at the 2-minute warning. And then Monday morning, we will have 49er Wake Up with yours truly and Larry Kruger, and the total dominating takeover of all things Bay Area sports from my basement on YouTube continues. We got Damon. I remember when I first heard you on the game, you were freaking hilarious with a Mickey Mouse voice that was gold. Ha ha ha! That I don't even remember that. Hi kids. I don't remember doing Mickey. I mean, I got a Mickey, but I don't remember in what context I was doing Mickey early on in my 95.7 The Game career. Again, there's so much of the career that people recall. They'll recall a certain sentence, a certain show, a certain point I made, and they'll bring it up to me, and I always say, "Oh, thank you very, very much. I really appreciate that." Half the time, I don't remember it. Like when you're hosting a show, you really don't even remember the show that you host. It's just like one big dream sequence just happened. There are times where I finish something, and I'm like, I said, what? What came out of me? True Blue Forever's got a really good baseball question. Do you think that they do dynamic pricing on free cocaine games? Obviously not in Philadelphia. I mean, good God. Those fans are nuts. Legends Pizza wants to remind everyone that angels fly because they take themselves lightly. That is what inspired me to end every show I did with sports don't build character, they reveal it. I'm like, man, I love the way that Ralph ends every show with a line. I don't really get his line. I don't know where he came up with that or how it applies to sports or how it applies to the way he goes about hosting a show, because Ralph never took himself lightly about anything. I always thought it was a weird way for Ralph to end his show, but I liked it. And so, yeah, I was inspired to do the same thing. All right. Here is a little love from the hand banana. You know, when you got the biggest dome in the room and you don't need to show it, Bochy in his 6-pack size helmet. Oh, dude, he did. He had a dome on him. There used to be the Bruce Bochy batting helmet sitting next to him in the manager's office at 24 Willie Mays Plaza. And it was an empty, upside down, white construction bucket with 2 eye holes cut out of it. Big dome. By the way, you know who also has big dome? Really big dome? Jack, my son. My son is a normal sized little boy in every percentage of growth and every doctor trip he's ever been to, except that head of his head is in like the 98th percentile of big domes. Sky Collins says, Damon, Peter can't sing in nearly the same key anymore. Here's the thing. I wasn't even expecting that. What I need is tempo. I've never been to a concert with less energy than the Peter Gabriel concert, which, by the way, was packed. Every single seat at Chase Center was full. I was even saying, he doesn't have a new album out. Peter Gabriel has not been a part of the What's Cool conversation for a very, very long time. I wonder what kind of crowd Peter Gabriel's going to get tonight at Chase Center. It was packed. And I've never felt less energy among like 18,000 people in my life. You could hear a pin drop in there when Peter Gabriel was talking about olive trees in between his songs. By the way, now, no wonder why Rob C is just throwing around the generosity. He said, I've won over 2K on postseason Bochy this year. I expect I'll get a little bit more too. There you go. You're just riding the Bochy train. Rob C, a brilliant man. Stacy, yeah, so disappointing. It was boring. Yeah, and look, the last concert that I just saw, I mean, there's no comparison. The last concert that I saw before Peter Gabriel was the LL Cool J Hip Hop Turnin' 50. Now, you literally couldn't put 2 more different concerts on top of each other than that. The other thing that bothers me, though, and this is what really bothers me, like, here's Peter Gabriel. He's an avant-garde guy, and he is playing this song, and it sounds exactly like the track, on the album. Like, do something different with it. Like, here you are. You got the entire room up for the first time. Everybody here is standing. And you're not going to jam out Sledgehammer. You're not going to give us a like, and just jam it out for a little while. Just kind of just let it rip. Just everyone just kind of fall into it and hang out for a little bit. Again, I'm not asking you to be Fish. I'm not waiting for a Grateful Dead drum space here, Peter, but do something other than just play the song as it was written 30 years ago. Like, put something new on this. Give me a twist. Give me a twist. Give me like a slow build or a slow... Like, God, at one point he asked, we left during this song too, because I'm like, all right, I would like to hear this song. And then they started playing it and it didn't sound great, but it was Big Time, the song. He asked everyone, he's like, can everyone tell me what time it is? The crowd is like, 10:15. Oh, no, wait, Big Time. And so he starts, like, the murmur of the title of the song, Big Time, starts rolling through Chase Center. And then all of a sudden he just started playing Big Time. And it just wasn't great, man. I'm sorry. It just was not great. Now, Ernie Chavez is bringing up a very good point that olive trees do provide shade. So, yeah, no, I didn't say it was an inaccurate concert. I just said it was boring. Leslie, the Greek is an awesome venue. Leslie, the Greek is my favorite venue. The Greek is my favorite place I've ever seen a concert ever. I love a beautiful night at the Greek is unbeatable. Just absolutely unbeatable. The walk up the hill, down the bars and Telegraph, I love a night at the Greek. Yosarian saying, Damon, I always thought olives came from martinis. No, it's just where the lucky ones end up. Chef A, have we got a tip of the day? A chef tip of the day from Chef Amy? She says, I love curing olives. Why were so many olives sick? How do you cure an olive? I know. Let's see. Steve Ballmer, does he have a thigh guy and how much does it pay? I bet it pays well. Joseph, I guess talking about Pat McAfee, says it was all about Aaron Rodgers, not his talent. Well, here's the thing. I'm not here to tell you that Pat McAfee is untalented or uninteresting. Like, I don't know, like a whole bunch of guys and producers going like, when I say something, everybody says cheese at the same time or whatever, like whatever little goofy thing that you got with the guys that you work with every day. Like, does that work anymore? Are people still doing radio like that? YouTube like that? I don't even know. I don't get it. I don't get it. A lot of love for Ben Mahler. I might have to get him on the show. Whitey does the best Mickey Mouse. That's the thing. Maybe you're confusing me with Whitey. Maybe Whitey was doing the Mickey Mouse on 95.7 The Game there. Was great to see Gianna. Absolutely. So good to see Gianna. Love her. And we'll be hanging out with her. We're going to be hanging out with her tomorrow. All right, kids. I think we have done an awful lot. Here's Dave Ryder. He's got my back. Dave Ryder, excuse me. David, I'm checking out that set list from last night. I don't recognize an awful lot of these songs. I think the last time I saw him was in San Jose back in 92. Yeah, I did not. I didn't recognize an awful lot of his songs either. It wasn't good. Again, the one thing you can be, the one thing you're not allowed to be when you're live is boring. I was bored at the show. I'd never checked my cell phone more times at any concert I've ever been to than at the Peter Gabriel concert. To the point where I'm like, God, man, put your phone away, Damon. But then I'm like, why? I'm not interested in this concert. He's boring me in between songs. The song he's playing are boring me. He's got this really talented band behind them. Nobody's out there walking a dog, taking taking a bass line for a walk or anything like that. Nothing. Tim Schafer, curing six olives. It's a dad joke. Yeah, probably time to start wrapping things up here when we did it. Damon, I did give you a chef's tip of the day. I missed it. I'm so sorry that I missed it. Did it happen during Club Plus? I'm sorry that I missed it. But hopefully no one else did. Damon, were you sober? Sober-ish. Had a few cocktails when I was there, sober-ish. But that's the thing. I don't need to be like the hammered guy to have a good time. Oh, Damon, how did the DMV go? My trip to the DMV, technically more satisfying than the Peter Gabriel concert. I got in and out of there pretty quickly. I was in and out of the DMV in 90 minutes. Shout out Daly City DMV. Did a really nice job. Got in, got out. I got a new picture taken. Not only did I get my driver's license renewed, I signed up for the Real ID thing, so I'm going to be able to get on an airplane without having my passport at some point in time, just with the Real ID, which you're all going to need. So, yeah, I had a better time at the DMV than I did the Peter Gabriel concert. That probably means this should be your last tour. And folks, we've done 2 hours. Just like that, it started with Tim Kawakami, went all the way to the DMV was more interesting than Peter Gabriel. Who would have ever thought? Who would have ever thought? Hey, thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you for being a part of this. Thanks to Rob C. Thanks to everyone who made it jingle jangle. I really, truly do appreciate it. Your support has been unreal. Yesterday was the most watched day in the history of this channel. 20,000, 25,000 views across the videos that were up, which, again, for others is humble. For me, it's the biggest day we've ever had. So thank you so very, very much for supporting this. You aren't just a member of the audience. You're a part of this success. So thank you for being a part of this success. I'm humbled that you continue to make me and this show a part of your daily routine. I really, really appreciate it. So it almost hurts to say that you don't have to go home. You just can't stay here.